Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show will have a talk about Linux projects such as a distribution, could be Linux. Sometimes it's a BSD base. Heck, maybe we'll look at Windows 3.1 someday. I don't know. We can also talk about desktop environments or applications. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics from the Linux and tech and open source communities. So anything that is on those subjects is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project because I think it's pretty rad. And with me today, I got a fantastic group of people. I've got Terry, Jinda, Sean, Bentley. I don't know how to say your last name, but that's okay. Ben and Ron. How is everybody?
Excellent.
All right, and I see that looks like the volumes of everybody is decent enough that we can go ahead and keep playing. So be sure to do the Strawpoll. It's about distro release cycle that you prefer. If you have not done so yet, check that out. We'll be doing that. And on the docket for discussion today, we will be going over that Strawpoll. We've got an open mic night, so pretty much anything that you want to talk about. I got a few things I'd like to chat about. And then do our last call. But first, what are we doing in Linux and tech? So I wanted to share with with everybody, as it were, some stuff I've been doing for getting ready for Christmas. So I don't know if you are aware. I haven't talked about it, but I do like lights. So like I use lights like this on my house that are programmable, and I do have some here. I'm not going to grab it because something will start falling. But what I've been doing is I'm adding to the I have a barn next to my house, or very adjacent to my house, that I'm going to light up as well. Like something this year has like really been bothering me about like the darkness. I don't know what it is, but like I find like, you know, when it gets dark at like 5 p.m. here Eastern, it kind of makes me kind of a little bit down, I guess, you know, like a little sad. I don't like the darkness. So it's dark forever. And one of the things I do is I like to push the darkness away with Christmas lights, essentially. But I call them festive lights because these are for more than just Christmas. And so one of the strategies is I use this stuff called F-channel or F-trim. It's used for sighting. And then what I do is I trim off, at least in the house, I trim this off. In my barn, I didn't have to. And then I make it so this is up in the soffit, in the lower part. And then I have the lights come down and they push through. Yeah, I can probably do it. So, wasn't ready for show and tell. But so these are the lights I used, and they're not lit up. But then I just had to have them poke down, and then it's, you know, it worked kind of nice. And then to hold it in place, I use some polyethylene foam. So instead of like screwing them or gluing them in place, I just hold them in place with a polyethylene. And I need to get some more foam, ultimately. But anyway, and so then all the lights just kind of hang down, and they're pushed in place. And then if I have to replace them, which I have done before, all I do is pull it.
Yank.
That's basically all I have to do. So it's held firmly in place, but not permanently. And then like if I just decided, you know, at some point in time that I'm done with lights, no more lights, you know, I quit, you know, whatever, I can literally just take the lights and pull them out, and I'm done. And you really can't see the trim. It's just kind of there. It doesn't look like anything out of place, if that makes any sense. So I've been working on this article now for a long time and for cubiclenate.com. It's not done yet. I keep getting delayed by life event things. Otherwise it would be done for all the steps in there. And I'm hoping that I can get that finished at some point in time. But anyway, so I'm pretty excited. I'm gonna put up, I don't know exactly how many lights yet, but it's probably going to be somewhere around another 500 to 800 lights probably on the house, actually on the barn, and then light them up for fall. Hopefully tomorrow I'll get those done, and also hopefully tomorrow I'll be done with my article as well, so that I can be I can share how I do it with everybody. Kind of the 0 to 60. Ooh, that's too bright. No, not 0 to 60. 0 to like 45. You're not going to get running with it, but it'll give you enough. I would say like the hard parts, kind of that gets you over the hump, I guess, of how to do these things. And then so somebody else wants to do something similar, they got all the information necessary for that. So anyway, that's what I have been going on. I don't know if anybody cares or has questions, but feel free to fire away or say something else. But it's all pretty cheap.
Nate,
Yes.
as to the colors on those lights, are they individually addressable or are they like all static?
Yeah, no, these are individually addressable lights, so they can be whatever color I want. So like
Okay.
for instance,
And is that color green?
so like if you see the lights behind me, which can you see the lights behind me? You see that is like my open Sousa color, whatever, green, or it could be like St. Patrick's Day, but I can do very quickly make it Christmas lights, or I can do make them pink for Valentine's Day, whatever I want. So all individually addressable. Here's
Cool.
another one, and then yeah. So anyway, so it's the same kind of light, and then what I do is I take that and I sequence them with a program called X Lights, and I put it to music. I have something picked out, so it's something that's very like early 2000s kind of bro rockish, or yeah, is it bro rock? Anyway, but it's Ali and AJ, so it's not bro because they're girls. But it's from the end of Santa Claus 3, the greatest time of year. That's what it's going to be. It's the new song I'm going to do. It takes probably 8 to 12 hours to sequence a single show, basically. And so I recycle the stuff from previous years and I'll update it, which will take a few hours to do because I'm adding more lights and whatnot. But that's what I'll do, and I'll hopefully take some decent video and publish them this year. But to me, it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like a I'm not gonna say I'm not really like an artistic person necessarily. I wouldn't call myself artistic. But it's it's kind of like an artistic outlet, if it makes any sense. I really like music. I really like, as a kid going to Disney World and when they do like the fireworks to music and everything else, stuff like that really just kind of resonated with me. And so obviously it's not fireworks. It's just lights and nothing goes boom. But it's kind of what I, kind of in the same vein, I guess, but not as cool as a lot of people. It's not going to be I'll never be like a top tier person because, well, with an attitude like that, right, I'll never get that way. But it probably won't be top tier because I don't have the money to invest or the time. So I try to make it so it makes me happy and brings little joy to my little corner of the world and, push away some more of that darkness that kind of bothers me. But anyway. It's fun. And
I would say with luck, it didn't go boom, rather as a qualifier.
Yes.
Not that it didn't go boom all on its own.
So a fun side note, when I first put the first system together on my previous home, I did not really quite boom, but I did have it go melt. And so I learned some things about wiring, how to wire this stuff, because I was pushing a little bit more power through the control board than I should have. And so the power going into the board, those terminals melted. Maybe it vibrated and kind of got a little loose and started create some resistance and whatnot. I don't know what happened. I actually rescued that board. I put a new connector on there, and I'll be recycling that board with a new BeagleBone Black BeagleBone Black is kind of like a Raspberry Pi, but it has more I/O. They're pretty cool. They're pretty rad. But I'll be putting that on the barn, be inside the barn, and so that's what I'll be using there. So I'll be kind of recycling an old board, and I'm not exactly sure. So there is something I don't know how to do yet, which is to get the two separate controllers to synchronize between them. I know there's a way to do that. Don't know how to do it yet. I'll figure it out in the next week or so. But this way, you have a master board, like a master controller, and then you have your subservient controller, and it will tell the other one what to do and when. So hopefully that works, and my Wi-Fi is good enough to be able to pick all that up. I did add an access point to the back of the house, so it should be able to reach that no problem. Should be able to, is the operative word there. But anyway, it's good times. Currently I do have lights on that side in front of the barn that are just controlled by Home Assistant that just turn on it and then turn off, and they're just kind of like a fall thing right now. So it looks like it's having a little bit of trouble here with the YouTube chat. Is anybody else having trouble? It looks like Peter Patterson, good old soulless spider, says that he's being disconnected from the chat, and then looks like Steve's very own says it's been having issues, but he said capital Ben. So Ben's been having issues. So sorry about that, Ben. The let's see, and apparently I did not. I didn't fix a thing here. So does anybody else do anything like nerdy techie for the holidays, or am I kind of the cheese that stands alone on that one?
Sorry, I kind of avoid all holidays.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a holiday guy. Sorry.
Hey, it's really it's not for everybody. I get it. I think Peter does probably says it correctly when I kind of sort of do it for the kids. So
Yeah,
there
that's
now it's
pretty much
popping up.
all it is.
So and the kids like it. I do have there's people in the community that have comment that they like it. They'll stop in front of my house and watch a show, and I will have the music will be over FM radio. I haven't set all that up yet, but the radio is ready to go. I really should probably put the antenna in the front somehow, but I don't know. I gotta figure that one out maybe. But I did have one neighbor complain. They said the channel I used, their car couldn't pick it up very well, so I did change the channel so they could pick it up better. So that was the only complaint I had so far.
Can you put it on any channel you want, or
Yeah,
there's
I can.
only-
I
Okay.
put any channel I want, but I choose one that's empty. That doesn't have
Dead.
any
Yeah,
a dead channel. Yeah,
choose a dead one.
right. And maybe dead's not the right word, but just unutilized in my area. Because,
Sorry, I thought
No, it's
dead was appropriate.
no, dead's fine. Dead's fine. So anyway, yeah, a little more festive. Then I do have more. Well, I'm almost out of these 5-volt lights, but I use 12-volt lights in the house, 5-volt for anything internal, because I can do it off like a little PSU, like a little cell phone charger type block. We'll power
Okay.
these right here.
You use a computer power supply to get 3, 12, and 5, right?
No, actually I don't. I use I have like these 12-volt power supplies. It's a 30 amp power supply. It's
Oh,
like
yeah. The brick ones.
yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Those work pretty well.
I don't know. I always use an old computer power supply because I'm cheap, because they're free.
Yeah.
You go dig around somewhere, you'll find one for nothing, and you can just hot wire them.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Something to trigger the turn on. I don't know. I guess you can jumper.
You
something.
short out a ground and some other pin. I always
Yeah.
look it up with a paper clip or something, and then
Right.
and you get constant voltage.
Right. Yep. Let's see. Anna says, Andrea says, Christmas is too commercial and chaos. I don't know what the last word was, but yeah. So I'm not big into the commercial aspect of Christmas. I like the older traditional stuff. Just time with family. I'm actually that weirdo relative that tries to organize family get-togethers because I like to see my family, and I actually like my family. I know it's kind of weird. A lot of people don't like their family, but we have great discussions. Everyone's pretty cool. Someone once said, if you're in a group of people and then you can't you can't identify somebody that's like the jerk of the group, then it's probably you. So I'm probably the jerk of the group, honestly, because they're all like really great people to be around. They're probably least proud of me. But anyway, I do enjoy time. So we'll have some other so after Christmas, the 25th. So I don't know if the old tradition is 25th is the first day of Christmas, and then the 26th is the second day of Christmas, and so on until you get to Epiphany. And so I keep all Christmas is in full swing for me for the entire 12 days of Christmas plus the 13th. So, but yeah, I do like it. It's fun. It's fun for me. It's the only thing that kind of gets me through the winter time. Otherwise, winter sucks. There's no reason for winter. That's it. I see Ben says you're not a big Christmas fan either, nor of major holidays. No, why is that? I'm just curious.
Oh, it's mostly because, outside the whole gift thing for me, it's just I don't really feel like I'm connected to it very much. I mean, when I was younger, I kind of was, but as I grew older, it it just felt like I just couldn't really connect to it anymore, and uh, I'm just not a I've just sort of felt like the connection has just been severed in some ways, and
Mm.
I've struggled to get it back ever since, really. So
So I'm also that weirdo that makes lots of Christmas cookies and gives them away to everybody, like my
Mhm.
neighbors and people. So if you guys were nearby, I would definitely give you Christmas cookies and probably
oh,
bring
that
bring
might actually help spark it
bring.
a little bit for
Okay,
me,
so
Nate.
Ben, after this, I'll send you some Christmas cookies. Give me your address. They won't have any razor blades or have anything weird in it. Um, and yeah,
Uh, if you were
yeah.
serious, Nate, then I might actually consider that.
They're
Oh no,
not going to be special cookies, are
no,
they?
no, no, because
Oh, okay, just making sure.
Oh, good
yeah,
gosh.
yeah. So
Nate, if you were being legit here, man, then I would actually
no, I'm serious.
maybe.
You send me your address, I will send you Christmas cookies. I even got containers
Oh
set ready
my
to go.
God.
I got
Okay, after
I
the show, I will
I've got
consider that.
I've got the holiday containers, little plastic things. I'll even send you one of those with all my favorite cookies that I make. I make
Oh
these
lordy, man.
there's
Okay.
cookie
Okay,
brownie
after the show
bars.
on Telegram, I
I'll
will
make
end it to you.
I'll make little Sousa sugar
Okay,
cookies,
okay.
the little green Sousa things. I mean,
You
I
are
go all
perking me
out.
up right now. I'm not even joking.
I think yeah, send me those special
Yeah,
cookies.
all right. All right.
So I don't know
I'll
I don't know how many
message it to
people that
you.
I can send cookies to, but I will do my darndest without breaking any like
Oh, good
international
gosh.
rules.
Okay, Nate.
So
Okay, we'll worry about that after the program, though.
so low tech Linux, I totally understand. After the divorce, the whole family holiday thing. Yeah, so I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm actually twice divorced. And I won't let it crush my Christmas spirit. Which is actually why I put lights up everywhere to basically push all that back. Because otherwise I get really down and kind of nasty. Do you mean herb cookies? No, Co2610. I am totally like, I self-identify as a 75-year-old grandma around Christmas. Or Santa Claus. Or maybe one of his elves. I don't know. Anyway, pick any one. And I'm kind of like, I like the house to smell like cinnamon and chocolate and all kinds. I have like hot cocoa ready for the kids most days, in the wintertime. Yeah, I'm a dork. I got it. Anyway, so yeah, yay Christmas. I'm also actually doing right now too, and this is actually kind of maybe of more interest to Sean because he's a big 3D printing, guru. I have these.
I don't know if I'm a guru, but
Okay,
I do dabble.
well, here's the thing. If I'm going to go for advice between me and you, I'm going to choose you over me. Anyway, there's these like really neat little toys I've been seeing where you probably seen them like on the Talk Tick or whatever it's called or the YouTube Shorts where like one thing passes through another. I think I showed maybe something like that last week. Yeah, like that. And they kind of it's basically just a circle going through a circle, but they have different interesting shapes that are helical, whatever. So I got some glow in the dark PLA. And I got this one that's kind of like it looks like a pyramid. I'll find it and maybe put it in the show notes. But it's a pyramid, and it kind of has like a really neat spiraling thing that goes through a base. So I'm gonna do like print off like a bunch of black bases with a glow in the dark filament for the part that passes through. And just for fun, I'm gonna give those away to everybody that I give gifts to, around me, as just it's a fun, silly thing. Once you throw it away, I don't care, but it's it's one of those. It's just silly gift giving. I like the silliness. I like the fun aspect. I don't care. Like, I don't care to receive gifts like food. I love food. I make a really good double layer pumpkin cheesecake. I like eating all the things that are just not really good for me. It gives me headaches because of sugar. But anyway. So Anna Rita says, my wife asked me what I want for Christmas, and I said socks and new sliders, slippers. Oh, I can't read the. Oh, it's got it. My thing is blocking it out.
It could be sliders. I mean,
Yeah.
you could slide around on them.
Yeah.
They're slippers. You could slide. Sure.
You slip or slide. What difference does it make?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. I want to do something more wintry though. Like I want to embrace winter this year. I hate the cold and I hate the snow. But if you have any ideas for like how we can embrace winter and enjoy it, please do share. Maybe leave a comment, send me an email, give me some ideas. That'll make me not hate the wintertime.
Nate,
And, Yes.
I just texted my folks about the idea of you mailing us those cookies. They said, uh,
All
sorry,
right.
man.
That's fine. I'm not offended. Well,
Yeah.
probably because I'm some weirdo on the internet, a stranger. So
No,
I
no,
get it.
no. They just
I get
yeah.
it. I get it. Slide with slippers. Why not? Yeah. All
So,
right.
so Nate,
Yeah.
just wanted to ask you. I mean, you have the glow in the dark filament. Do you have a hardened sealed nozzle?
Am I supposed to have one? I think I do.
For glow in the dark filament, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well. Okay. So
It's
educate me.
it's very abrasive.
Oh, it
So
is. Okay.
yeah.
Well,
So
that's good to know. I'll see what I got. I know I got a bunch of nozzles, and I had some steel ones, but I've been using brass, so I will check that out. See how that goes. So anyway, all right. I'll keep that in mind.
okay, I'm a geek. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's that.
No, that's a good tip.
That's why we are here, because we're all kind of a little nerdy. So speaking of that, Eris put together a fantastic straw poll. Which Linux distribution release cycle do you prefer? And so, I don't know so if you're not done
I
a
have
straw
a
poll yet,
good answer to this one.
I think I know what yours will be based on everything you've told
No,
me so
no,
far.
no, no, Nate. You don't know that till I say the dang thing.
Oh, okay, that's a good point.
I have
So,
an answer to this one. You may not be expecting it, but expect it.
okay, well,
Expect
go-
the unexpected, boys.
let me read the one reply that I got. It says, the one problem I had with point release distros is that whenever there's a big update, there can be third-party repos like Fedora's Copper repos that aren't updated and something breaks. Rolling release plus snapshots, that can be rolled back into atomic updates is a better way to handle updates, in my opinion. So, I think that's probably a pretty good way to look at it. So, hey, let me see here. So go ahead and check the vote. See the results here. I'll wait just a moment and stall for time. So it looks like, well, it's actually got quite a few votes in it. So in first place at 41.7%, point release, like example Debian, or maybe OpenSUSE Leap. That got first place. In second place is rolling release, like Arch or Tumbleweed. That's at 38.9%. And then third place was no preference with 8.3%, and then other at 8.3%. Tux Penguin got a vote, so we're good there. So Tux Penguin got Tux Penguin. It's actually kind of surprising that it's pretty close between rolling and point release, because I think most people probably prefer, I would have thought prefer rolling. Low Tech Linux says Tumbleweed is, he's put Tumbleweed on everything, and I update when I get to it. Works just fine. And then Peter Patterson says rolling, rolling, rolling. Keep those distros rolling. That sounds like a song. And Cody Lamer says, hello all. So what does Cody Lamer use? Does he use rolling or point releases? I don't know. So what are you going to say, Sean, on that?
Right. So as you probably all know, that I'm a big fan of Nix.
Yes.
And I'm currently using the Nix Unstable branch as a rolling release distro.
Okay.
But I am strongly considering moving back to the stable release and kind of like following my own advice that if it's not something that is in the stable release, kind of like look at Flatpaks and Advantages as a substitute rather than going to a rolling release.
Okay. So kind of a mixture then. So you want your applications latest and greatest through Flatpak, but you want your core to be stable. Is that what you're basically telling me?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to see how it works.
Okay.
I mean, that's like the underlying philosophy is like, does this work in real life?
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And I don't know if anyone's like actually done that, but they probably have. But I haven't, so I might as well like experiment with myself.
Right. I get it. So I think I use Tumbleweed, which is rolling, and then I use a lot of Flatpak because I want kind of the latest applications too. So I guess I'm kind of. This is actually completely opposite to what I preferred 10 years ago. Eric, welcome. But I wasn't really in. I didn't like the rolling 10 years ago. I wanted more of a stable, and I didn't even want the latest packages. I just wanted everything to be very stable. So then Ron, I see you and your you put right there in the chat. Rolling release are for people who are into Russian roulette.
Well,
It could be.
Yeah.
I mean, over the years, I've become rather fond of rolling release. Rolling
Yeah.
release is rather, I think the one that I've used the most is definitely Solus.
Okay.
I found that even when they had that whole thing where the ship got shipwrecked and all that nonsense was going on the whole time, I was able, once all that was over and we got back on track, I was able to get started again, and it was like nothing ever happened. And so that rolling release has just been really good for me since 2016. And so I appreciate that a lot. I don't have to nuke and pave.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of how I look at it too. So I went with Tumbleweed, and I think I've said this many times before. But Eric, you got something really fancy going on. I'm not used to this.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not sure how to make it stop doing that, if I even can.
Well, I mean, it's a different background. You got really nice cabinets back there. A very fancy looking light.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's actually a real real space, not like a fake backdrop or anything. So,
Right.
Oh, so he's got a new studio.
well, I'm just in a different part of the house. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it's my imaginary world. I can kind of twist it how I like, right? But I'm largely in the category of Swift there. I do like having, I'm kind of lazy. I don't like having to do the upgrade process. And I'm not even sure why that bothers me so much. It's really easy to do. Ubuntu makes it really easy. Fedora makes it really easy. OpenSUSE makes it, and SUSE makes it relatively easy, I would say. It's something you do have to run. You have to make an effort to upgrade it. Not difficult to do, but not as nice as maybe Ubuntu or Fedora. So I think Fedora's is very easy too. So I guess it's not even really a good excuse at this point.
Well, I think in the past that, years ago when I used the rolling releases, I had more issues with them. Nowadays, I think that's gone drastically away.
And why do you think that is? Do you think it's better QA, or do you think the technology is largely stabilized?
Well, I think it's just a general and whole. I think the software's gotten a lot better for everyone. I mean, from Windows to Linux, I think it's gotten better. So whatever they were doing in the past, they fixed and they grew and learned from their stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
That's just a guess, but
So I think my argument against rolling release is back in the earlier days, I don't even know what to call it. I mean, maybe even 5 or 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. Whenever there was a new release of, let's say, Ubuntu or even like, well, I think SUSE did it. I think before the Leap days, where everything had like its own fun name. Ubuntu still does it, but like it was a big deal. They had like release parties, they had installation parties,
Beefy
all these different.
Miracle.
What's that?
Beefy Miracle.
Yes,
What you talking about? Yeah.
but like all these like installation parties, you had all these like you had all these like fun little events, all like around a new release of Linux, and he had like a lot of things where new technologies are being tried out. Like Ubuntu was really at one time not even Slap Code 2610. This is not Steve's very own stream where I don't have anything cool set up. I just have pop-up chat. So Code 2610, this is it. This is all you get. Little pop-up like that and then down. That's it. And then Anna's up. That's it. That's all you get. That's all you get here. Maybe someday when I don't have when I can tolerate such craziness. Or maybe Steve should run the streams, and then we can do fun things like that. So until I can convince Steve to run the streams and be in charge of this and maybe be the host, we'll probably stick with the simple and basic. So Steve, something to think about. Anyway, because he's just better at this. I mean, you just know where your limits are, and he's just better. Like it's like it's like when you go to Texas and you get brisket, and then you try and make it at home. You're just like, I can't do that. It's just not. There's no. I'm nowhere in the same. I'm not playing the same game. So Steve's a pro. That's what's happening. He's snickering hard. He says he's snickering hard. At least that's what this says. Where was it going? Oh, these releases. So we had like all these fun events. Do you remember guys doing those like an IRC like installation parties? I know that sounds really like super nerdy times. Did anybody do those besides me? No.
I wasn't on IRC at the time, so
Okay.
I kind of missed out on that era.
Yeah.
I would have done it though if I knew about it.
There were actually release parties in the area that I was at the time for the latest releases of Ubuntu. It was like a really cool place to go and like focus on your laptop and nobody else.
I think I participated in a few, and I certainly watched a few being streamed, but I only did that a few times. But yeah, it was interesting. I think there was always that sort of hype around new releases, and I don't know, maybe back to what you were kind of saying about how, the rolling release, and you felt like you were getting something new and fresh all the time, and sort of that same excitement,
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, for me, a big part of why I found rolling releases to be so interesting. It was just like, I mean, if you're into playing with Linux and you want to, play around with your system, and every single day you can go in and update and, refresh through the repos, and you've got new things to install, like that's fun, when you're into that.
So do you think we're kind of spoiled now though? Because the technology is so good and the QA is done as well as it is, and the checking everything is so much tighter, that do you think maybe we've lost some of the excitement and taken for granted just how good we have it?
I don't know that it's.
I disagree that I do agree that we're at the point where the fun isn't there anymore. Because I remember when I first got started with Linux back in 2010, it was fun. I mean, and there were certain podcasts that I was listening to that made it fun. And it just was stuff I looked forward to every single week. And it just kept that enthusiasm up to the point where I wanted to use Linux more and more and more. It was a community thing. And I feel like some of that has been lost over the years, sadly.
So do you think
it's a little bit of. Good.
No. I want to hear what you're going to say. I was just trying to fill dead air. Go ahead.
No, please. So do you think it was? Go ahead.
Okay. So, do you think the excitement is just because it was new for you at the time, or do you think it's the excitement of Linux in general has waned?
Oh, that's a good question. Definitely the first one. Definitely because it was new. I agree with that 100%. Now I'm at a point where I'm settled with what I like to use. Periodically, I'll check out something new, but for the most part, I'm content with Solus. So it's not like it's just a different time for me, I would say, after these years.
I think that's fair. I can definitely see that.
Because it's been almost 15 years for me. I didn't realize that much time passed by, but it's been almost 15 years.
Hey, Swift, don't do the math. Just it's not good. Just always say it's like 5 years. Just even if it's been like 20, just say 5 years ago.
Because to go along with that, when we did the what is it called? The wobbly windows, and you can make your desktop cube and fire. Like all that was exciting at that time. I still like it. It was just something when it was brand new and you're just introduced to it and you're starting this journey and it's exciting.
I think that goes into as well the processes. So you're assuming that, and I'm not saying that it isn't true, that the quality of the tool sets and processes for like QA and and all of that sort of, conflict resolution, all that sort of stuff are better today, or let's say there are more robust tools available for either less or free than they would have been in the past potentially. But I also think that a lot of it comes down to how you run your system. And it not only was it, running a rolling release, it was also intentionally going into the AUR and like finding things to play with, and like pushing the boundaries of like what stability could be on a rolling release. And so I don't necessarily feel it was as much the distro as it was the way I was using my computer. And so like I would definitely paint myself into a corner more often than not, and then have to figure out a way out of it. But that was almost by design. Like I was pushing it on purpose just to see, like, let's do something ridiculous, like rip out some core component that, you should just leave how it is,
And see what
but
happens.
just to see if you can do it. Yeah, why not? Why not? Just to see,
You know, and I
So,
will say,
yeah.
my son has done something very similar. He installed Windows 11, but ripped out all the Edge components to it to see how it would
Wow.
run, and it was kind of a train wreck. But it was a neat experiment for him to do, and I appreciated that. So Mike Chilson says, I think it's the natural progression when you use things like Linux. The excitement dies off and just becomes a great tool for you. I think that's pretty accurate. Not to pick on Steve's very own, but he used to call it, he even says this, and talk about boring Linux. So he used to do his Linux coffee clash, and since then he's kind of moved on to doing OBS. And so now it's a mixture of Linux and Windows stuff and some other, like, I think some cloudish based things he does. I don't know. He when he talks, he's talking in a language I don't fully understand. But anyway, it could be Chicagoese for all I know. But I think there is when you discover something new, it becomes very exciting, and you play with it, and then you eventually the new toy does, just becomes either just kind of part of the background noise, I guess, over time. And I think also for me, well, I mean, I can't speak for all of you, but 10, 15 years ago, not everything I did was on the computer, but now almost all of my work now is on the computer, to include like my budgeting and finance management stuff, even like a lot of my hobby activities all on the computer. And so maybe I expect a certain level of resilience or reliability out of my computer now, so I don't want things to be exciting. Does that make any sense?
You do. Because sometimes it can just be a bit much over time and you just want to settle down. It's almost like getting older, where there's a lot of active activities you enjoy as a youth. And then as you get older, it may be that you just don't enjoy them as much anymore. It's just not as much fun. So it could all be part of that.
So Cody in the chat says the honeymoon stage is gone. And I think that's an interesting way of putting it, with again, like that new excitement. But, I think using that same, and not that I will ever experience this myself, because it's just not going to happen now. But, like I know people who've been married for, decades upon decades, and yeah, the honeymoon stage is over, but they have a different kind of richness in their relationship. And although I'll never experience this, I think that you can have, I think maybe the relationship you have with your computer, while at first is just all fun, it becomes something more productive later on. I don't know. Maybe it's not as much fun, but maybe it's better. If that makes any sense? Or am I crazy?
So to kind of put out a different viewpoint, I think it has become less about the operating system and more about what is your Photoshop, what is your killer app that you absolutely have to run. And when that gets a new update, then you're excited. Not so much on the day-to-day, like, oh, we have a new file system. Yay. You could geek out to that, and if that's your bag, sure. But I don't think that's how people view their experience on computers anymore. It's more like my applications are king, not the operating system is king.
Right. No, I think you're right about that. Which is why I like doing those like application appetizers here on Linux Saloon, where we find neat tools to be able to try out and share and whatnot. Which again, like Jinda, the Angry IP scanner.
You're
That-
still using
Oh
that
my
thing?
gosh, I'm still using that thing because it's so easy to use. It's very quick. I can scan an entire IP range just
Yeah.
to make sure that I haven't lost my mind at work.
Oh yeah.
In fact, we had a database corruption recently for that keeps track of all of our static IPs. Guess what I'm going to
Mhm.
be using?
Yep.
So, I mean, there's lots of things to be said for a lot of different tools that are out there that make life a little bit better and are pretty exciting. Or even that stupid clock application I'm still geeking about, even though it's a stupid clock application that I really like that I talked about last week. And I realize it's nobody cares, but it's you find these little nuggets of usefulness around, and maybe that's it. Or like Orca Slicer that Sean shared with me that really changed my life doing 3D printing because it has better preferences and defaults just baked into it. So now I can print any material that I really want to print, and the final print turns out pretty darn good. Even things like elephant foot compensation.
Compensation, yeah.
Yeah.
Although that's been around in most slicers since Slick 3R, so you just had to look for it.
Well, I just discovered it last week. So, there you go. So anyway,
Okay. No more elephant foots for Nate. That's good.
this has been an exciting week. Although I don't have it quite dialed in quite right. But anyway, yeah, I think it's interesting to think about though. Maybe it's more the applications, what we're doing with it, as opposed to necessarily Linux itself. But I don't want to lose sight of some of the fun that is, I don't know, Linux. Also, the fact that Ron's got 15-year-old laptops that he keeps running. Or I don't know how they are. Maybe they're only 6-year-old. That somehow
Could be 20.
Could be
Could
20.
be 30.
Probably not
That's
30.
possible.
That might be
Made in December 2011. So what is that?
5 years.
13. Lucky
we-
13.
Nope, we've established anything more than 5 just stops at 5. Maybe 7.
So the Commodore has only been like out of commission for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Yep, and when it's about to reach 6, it goes back to 5. It's this really strange thing. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I guess which just release cycle do you prefer? That's what we were talking about, I think. Did anybody have anything else you want to say about the
And I think
distribution?
the answer is yes. I
Uh-huh.
mean, it's
Yeah.
like whatever floats your boat, right?
Right.
So
Mhm.
Yeah, my comment about the Russian roulette thing. I have big eyes, and when I do a rolling release after about 2 or 3 months of updates, I have really, really big eyes because it's broken. I have no idea what to do.
That
well, I
sounds,
mean, you could reinstall something that is a stable release and then use Flatpaks.
yeah.
Yeah. Or I can
But
just go a Debian
choose
way and get
choose
on
not
with my
to.
life.
Right.
It's okay.
Oh, wow.
I do do Arch-based stuff on the Play machine just for the hell of it. Last one was Ben's thing, and yeah, that was fun while it lasted. It did break on me, by the way, Ben. I forgot why now, but yeah, it's been a couple of weeks.
Well, that's kind of part of the archway, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Do what now, Ron?
Huh? What? Oh, it did break on me. One of the updates didn't fly. On
Oh, do you remember which
dependencies, apparently
update
it
this
was.
was?
Sorry, I spoke over you.
No, I was wondering if you remember what update this was.
Sleep deprived. Not much is coming to my brain right now. So
Well, it's okay. I mean, worst case, you can always just rerun it.
Yeah, yeah, there is that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you choose to, just let me know which update it ends up
Oh, for
being.
sure. I still have it installed in the machine, so
No worries. Just let me know when you get time what update it might have been and all that. So,
absolutely.
all right, thanks.
It's Arch. It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. They were on Biddle, and I think maybe even early Linux Saloon. Truck driver, can't remember his name. Sorry, if you end up watching.
Something
this.
Wolf.
Was it
Shadow Wolf?
Dreaming Wolf?
Dreaming?
Wolf? No, was it? Anyway, he said he always make the statement that Linux is supposed to hurt a little bit, and yeah, it's kind of a fun thing to think about.
It actually is kind of funny. I remember that too, and I also cannot remember the user's name.
I think it was
yeah,
Dreaming Wolf. I think it was Dreaming Wolf.
something like
But-
that. Yeah.
But like pretty much ever since that the crazy year 4 years ago, he kind of dropped off a little bit, and so I think things got busy for him. Things got really busy with because he was a trucker, and so he just kind of hasn't been back since. Yeah, good times. Adam, welcome. Nice to have you here. You're gonna tell us what's neat, I hope.
Not at all.
So, do you like rolling or do you like static releases better?
I generally prefer rolling.
Okay. And do you feel like it's taken some of the fun out of like the release parties, or do you never really care about that?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely has.
So then
I
is
remember
it,
getting excited about like new releases and stuff, but also what kind of took a lot of the fun out is just a lot of times it's just incremental stuff. It's not as big
Mhm.
as it used to be, right? Like the changes themselves aren't as
Right.
big as they used to be. And so it's like, hey guys, we have a new version of GNOME, and like I think we have some new power thing, and that's about it, like that kind of thing, right? And then like everything else, all your packages are just a higher number now.
right?
It just doesn't feel as
I-
and that's not to impugn the work that's being done and the big changes and stuff. It's not saying that that's not worthy of praise or celebration, just that it doesn't have the same feeling as it used to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
rolling definitely has its part in that.
Although I kind of like when I think about it though, I don't know that I'd want to go back to the way it was, because I think I overall enjoy Linux more. I'm just less excited about it, if that makes any sense. Does that seem to be a fair? I don't-
Yeah, I can see that. I think the moment something becomes like a banal just appliance to me is the moment I just kind of stop caring.
Yeah.
I want to be excited about the things I use. I want my daily experiences to feel like they're meaningful, and the moment they just feel like not that, they're just basically work and a means to an end, and I no longer want to interact with them.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
if you view your operating system as a tool, you want your tool to be reliable, and you don't want that tool to change overnight into
Right.
a totally new tool that you have to adapt to again.
I wanted to change into a better tool.
Well, okay, there's that, but I think that's an incremental kind of advancement in the tool, rather than like, oh, by the way, we're just gonna nuke and pave the operating system, and now you're on a tiling window manager. Okay, that's a release, and you
What
would
about
probably
the-
go, ah.
What about the idea that we have covered so much ground in terms of refinement in any given distribution that it felt like the release parties and the releases themselves were so monumental, because usually there were significant changes that were, significant. Like there were legit big changes that they were polarizing. Some people loved them, some people hated them. Sometimes they would fix something that was a long-standing issue. They felt more important. Whereas today I see a lot of releases there's always this, it's like technical debt, or, the most minuscule refinement where, people are talking up something like a toggle switch or something like really
Accent
seemingly,
colors.
yeah, something like really seemingly basic, but that's because we've kind of gotten there now. We've made it so reliable and so predictable that, I mean, it's almost like, I can equate that to smartphones as well. I mean, like, what's left to do, to shake up, to, I felt like distros were an expression. They were a way for a team of people to sort of put their ideas out there in a very meaningful way to other people who were on that same wavelength. They were just sort of like, trying to use a computer in a very specific way. And,
They've been productized.
yeah, now it just kind of feels like it doesn't have that same sort of like rough edge on purpose. Like we're making progress, we're doing something. Yeah.
I mean,
it wasn't ever going to stay this way, right? Like you look at how Linux distributions have evolved over the past 2 decades, and it's usually a bunch of incrementalism, that a leap forward, and then more incrementalism for a longer period. We've had honestly, I think our leap forward right now is this transition from X11 to Wayland. It's happening right now, and it's happening at a very, very fast clip. But then we'll go back to it being incremental again, and it's mostly going to be about philosophical opinions or integration choices or the relationships, really, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, all these distributions of what we do now in Linux platforms is essentially express our relationships in the form of the software that we ship.
Yeah, and you have some that are more minimalist types that.
I mean, the minimalist ones are often the ones where they don't want to work with people, and the maximal ones are the ones that work with a lot more people.
Yeah,
it's a good way of putting it.
No, I mean, it sounds kind of facetious, but you think about it, right? Like,
yeah.
The very minimal Linux distributions are often the ones where someone's like, I want to have like there's a person or a small group of people who want to have total control of the stack. They want to know every single thing. They want to have the whole headcanon, for lack of a better phrasing, for how this distribution is integrated, developed, maintained, and whatever. So you tend to see that kind of headcanon develop around distributions that have really, really small collections of software in themselves. And then ones that are more expansive, what you tend to see instead is, multiple groups of people coming together under a single banner, doing these things and working together in some form or fashion. Like you see this, for example, in Fedora, where the Fedora project has, I don't know, a little over a dozen different variants that are produced with deliverables, like Fedora KDE, which is the best, and then you have Fedora Workstation and Fedora XFC and LexQt and all these other ones. These are all different teams, different groups of people that are all operating under the same banner. They have some connection to each other. They're essentially like a loose confederation within the larger Fedora Project Federation. And OpenSUSE is in a similar way. You've got these different development teams that do things and put them into Factory, which becomes OpenSUSE Tumbleweed or Slow Roll, and then later Leap and SLE and all those other things. And Debian's even looser, right? There's these individual fiefdoms of people that do their thing, and then they push it, and then it eventually gets collected together and released as a whole. But again, it comes back to this expression of relationships. The way a distribution develops, grows, and ships software is entirely defined by the types of people that are in there working in it and working together.
Yeah.
And in that sense, that's what makes them exciting.
Okay. It does, and that's that whole expression, the ability to take this, everybody's sort of drawing from the same tool set, right? We've all got the same, technologies and packages and all of that stuff. And to see a team of people put those things together in a very different or interesting way, that eternal question of, why are there so many distros, or are there too many distros?
Mm.
And I've always said no, because it's like saying, are there too many paintings? Are there too many, you know, it's a way of expressing yourself. You know, if it's one person who decides they want to build out, you know, their own distro that suits their own purposes, and then someone else picks it up and, you know, and it sort of grows organically, or if it's a team of people, or if it's a major corporation putting out their own version of something, you have space for all of those things. And like to Neil's point, like whether you want to have a lot of interaction with people and you're serving an audience of people, or whether it's a very one-sided thing where you're saying, this is the need we're trying to fill, and so this is what we're putting out there, and if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then, you know, we're not going to spend too much time helping you, or adding things. So, but that's always been the sort of magic of a distro to me, is that we're using the same things, but putting them together in, you know, sometimes radically different ways.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to what is your focus, and your focus is like what you need to do at the end of the day. So if you are a gamer, maybe you're like really hyper focused on gaming distributions, and when a gaming distribution comes along, you're like really hyped about that. If you're like, I'm a Debian guy, or Debian, depending on how you say it, and like all of a sudden after a couple of years there's a new release of Debian, then you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? So it depends on your focus and what you want to get done.
Yeah, and also I think at one time it seemed like distributions were more focused on an area like maybe if like for hardware or software availability, but now like with DistroBox and Flatpak and Snaps and App Images, it seems like that's kind of lost its. There isn't really one, in my opinion, there isn't really one distribution that is better suited for another than another for a particular application. And then with DistroBox, now all those lines are blurred even more. So I don't even know.
Or they're even more solid. Think about it. Like the other way you think about DistroBox is it flips it inside out, right? So instead of your operating environment then has another one inside of it where you can get software collections of any type from all the different ones with the different opinions. If anything, DistroBox shows that Flatpaks and Snaps and App Images aren't sufficient because there are things people want that are only available from those Linux operating environments that come from these different distributions, right? Like,
Yeah.
And also at the end of the day, what is the point of a Linux distribution except to distribute software? Like, if you take that away, then it's not really anything. Like, if you really, really, really boil it down, the whole point of a Linux distribution is to distribute software with the Linux kernel. So if it ain't doing that, I don't know what it's doing.
Well, I think I could argue that, you know, if I could get an application that I need on another operating system, that's sufficient. And well, you can. I don't think that scratches the itch for anyone who's here that wants to know exactly what goes into their computer and makes it run.
Yeah, I was actually thinking too, with the with DistroBox, it changed the way I organize my software. So instead of having all these community repositories on my main system, the host system, I guess, I put those in separate DistroBox instances, and then the one that I think provides the best experience, I sometimes use that for a particular piece of software, but just for that bit of software. So I don't know. I guess maybe it's more pronounced and blurry all at the same time for me on that front.
So
I
something
think
that
that one just proves the point that the Linux distribution matters way more than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
right,
Like if you're
if
reaching
you
for
can
a
get
tool like DistroBox to be able to get an application experience to be better, then that says that a particular Linux distribution matters more than another one does.
right, and also I feel like it makes the choice of the distro you run underneath more important than less important, because if you can get the applications in any number of distro boxes, then what makes you choose one distro as your host distro over the other? So now the actual applications and the system as a whole, the management, whatever it might be, whatever your motivation is, if all of the applications are available in some way, then what makes you choose one over the other for your host?
Right. Like for me, if I'm looking at, say, doing stuff with DistroBox and a host system, I'd also look at the collection of DistroBoxes and see how many of these can I consolidate into a singular type of operating environment, and do I actually need them to be in a DistroBox in the first place? Like it also depends on like what level of trust and what type of software you're running and things like that. I mean, for me, like even when I'm doing DistroBox stuff, for the most part, or if I'm doing something like DistroBox, because I don't use DistroBox itself, but I use things similar to it. Usually, what I'm doing is I'm essentially taking my running host computer and essentially overlaying it as an ephemeral container to then run or test applications. And then when I'm done with it, I just cancel it and throw it away. If it's something I like, I actually install it persistently on my system. Like I don't use containers to have persistent workloads because they're a very bad abstraction for that. And you can get into some very odd circumstances and behaviors because of how the container abstraction works. So I use it for evaluation more than persistently keeping things around. But that's also kind of like a different way of the calculus. I also prefer my environment to be more hackable than not, in the sense of I want to understand how things work, or if something is broken, I want to be able to fix it.
Right.
Okay.
So Peter Patterson says, DistroBox, what is that? So I'm going to explain it as probably poorly, so please help me out if I do this wrong. But DistroBox is essentially a kind of like a container. It uses containers, but you can run a whole other distribution inside your distribution, inside your app, whatever your host system is, and use all those environment toys and whatnot. So for instance, I run an instance of Kali Linux within OpenSUSE and also Debian too, but because I like the tool how the tools are arranged for Kali Linux for specific functions, and it's not that they don't exist in other distributions. It's just that I just happen to like how they present them, and so I use that, and then I turn off that container when I'm not using it. I don't know if I'm actually getting all the full benefits of Kali Linux necessarily, but I get the tools that I want presented in the way that I want, that I can use natively in Tumbleweed. So that's how I use it. Again, I'm not sure that I'm necessarily using it correctly, but it's a way that seems to work for me. Also, I think with some community repos of OpenSUSE, like in the OpenSUSE repository, there are some in OBS. There are some applications that require some community repositories, and I don't want them on my host system, so I put them in a container, and I don't run them very often, but they're there, and I update them as I feel moved to update them. So again, I don't know if it's the right way of doing it, but it works for me. And so Neil, you can go ahead and tell me what I'm doing wrong if you like.
You shouldn't be using Kali Linux, both either container or otherwise.
Oh,
It's bad for you. Stop.
okay. All right. So should I get help? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. Okay, so slightly being facetious, but also being serious here. Kali Linux is kind of special. It's designed to be, a pen testing type thing, whatever. But like one of the consequences is that its configuration deliberately makes your operating environment insecure. And the nature of things like DistroBox and whatever is those things can leak back into your host operating environment even after you've closed the container. So you probably want to be more careful about stuff like that.
Okay.
But what I would probably succinctly describe DistroBox as is it is a downloader of user space things from different distributions, and it brings your home directory into it and lets you run things as if you were running that platform. That's like the most simplest way to put it is it takes an image of an operating system and connects your home directory of your environment into it and lets you run it as if you were running from that OS.
I actually sometimes separate my home directory from it when I feel like it's
yes, but that's the
necessary.
default behavior.
Right. Yeah.
If you use Toolbox or DistroBox and you run it, that is what it will do by default.
So
Or
Nate,
you could say it connects a persistent home directory. I mean, it doesn't have to be your specific real one, but that is what it does.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That seems like a good way of putting it. What are you gonna say, Ron?
yeah, I was going to ask you, DistroBox, are you using it on a laptop or a desktop?
Laptop and desktop. I use
Laptop.
it on this machine too. At least I have, but I use it most on my laptop. Especially
Have
if I
you
don't-
noticed what the CPU hit is like and the memory hit when it's running?
Hardly anything.
It's largely inconsequential because
Yeah.
I have 64 gig of RAM on my laptop.
Okay. So when your guest, I guess, OS is sleeping, when it's not in use, I guess there's very little CPU activity with DistroBox.
There's none.
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 Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I turn them on for a specific thing, and I shut them back. And actually, you can automatically have them turn on when you run the application, which is what I'll do. But
And
then-
the file system on your SSD, is it variable depending on need?
so if you do like your home directory, it's just whatever your home directory is.
Okay.
So it uses your kernel, it uses all your the core bits. It's just I'm not exactly sure how it works exactly, but it's like almost like a root environment, it seems like, but it runs everything kind of separately in a container, but then so for hardware and system access, it goes to your kernel, and I believe systemd as well. I think it just kind of passes through to systemd for anything like.
So it's
like-
essentially the user space is the thing that's sitting in DistroBox?
Well, the user.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the underlying like OS itself is running on your machine, and DistroBox is just a containerized user space.
Nice.
So as far as resource usage and stuff goes, aside from any of the applications or things that you run within the DistroBox, it won't be adding anything else.
Nice.
Yeah. So Rudy's Retro Intel says sounds like VMware or hypervisor, and I would say
It's not. No.
yeah, it's much leaner than that. It doesn't require that additional layer or
It's not virtualizing any hardware.
right.
That's the thing.
Yeah, so it does run from your kernel or systemd. I don't know exactly how the init system is involved necessarily, but I do know that it uses your kernel. So if I would open up Debian, my Debian distro box, and I ran like NeoFetch or FastFetch or whatever's available on it, it would show me all the stats basically that I would see from OpenSUSE, but like on but with the current version of Debian, and then it'll show me the kernel that I'm running as well.
So what would be a downside of DistroBox compared to, I usually use VirtualBox or dual booting with Windows. What would be a downside?
Think of
The downside is it
think
can
of
affect your
DistroBox as-
computer.
Yeah.
I mean, containers are not a real security boundary. They are not isolating. They don't protect system resources from the operating environment. They don't protect the operating environment from other operating environments. It's a very leaky setup. You want any kind of real security, run a virtual machine.
Yeah, containers are just simply another way of delivering software.
Yeah.
Well, they're not
Another way
even for
of
delivering
packaging it.
software. All they are execution routes. You put a pile of code into a directory and you say, shroot, run the thing.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
the
but
very
that's a
simplest
bit
expression of what it
reductive,
is.
that's a
I
bit
think I
reductive
understand what Adam
example
was saying.
describing
Delivering software because a user space is a whole collection of software being delivered to my face. So
Well,
Yeah.
so the reason I'm saying it's not about delivery is because containers, there are two axes to think about containers. So the axis that actually matters from what is the impact it has to you has nothing to do with the software delivery part. The software delivery part is whatever container system you're using, whether that's Podman or Docker, whether that's Incus or systemd spawn or LXC. Any of these things have their own methods of you essentially assembling a container and running it, or receiving one, or transferring one, or whatever. That's a delivery or maintenance aspect of it. That has nothing to do with the impact. The impact of a container is that you are giving you're giving a set of code to be able to run on your system at the same level as everything else on your computer. If you are not comfortable with that, then don't use containers and use virtual machines instead.
I like to play fast and loose. What can I say?
Nah.
Actually, containers are often used in development environments across
Sure.
people that have like different operating systems to bring them together on a certain commonality, and that I think is like the ultimate strength of containers, not the weakness.
Well,
is like
so the
you're
commonality
sure.
is limited. It's to the extent that, like, for example, you'll have the same user bin foo, right, inside of the environment, but
Sure.
it doesn't affect the hardware, it doesn't affect the drivers, it doesn't affect how it doesn't actually like, you can still have impacts from how you started it, what architecture you're on, all this other stuff. The only true way to have true reproducibility of an operating environment is to use a virtual machine.
Yeah, I kind of think of containers.
Actually, I would disagree. I would totally disagree with that, and that is because I'm coming from somebody who uses Nix, that you can nail things down to what version, what the operating system is, all that kind of stuff within a Nix container, and it will be reproducible across anything that you throw at it.
It will not be behaviorally reproducible. It can't. It cannot be behaviorally reproducible unless you're giving it the same hardware inputs. And that is the difference between a virtual machine and a container.
And that is actually underlyingly true of virtual containers as well, or virtual machines as well.
Sure, but virtual machines fake enough behaviors to be consistent enough that you can have reliable guarantees of reproducibility. You can go even further and go into full system emulation if you want.
I've not been able to do that successfully, though. But I haven't.
I think this is a very long conversation that needs to happen at some point, but not on this podcast.
Yeah,
This is just one of those things that tends to grind my gears, because like I spent a decade trying to make sure that these kinds of things were set up right for a production environment, where being loose led to a lot of very weird problems.
And I spent more than 2 decades trying to use systems that were not up to snuff on that same subject. So we can agree to disagree. and I think this would make a totally awesome conversation, just not on this particular podcast.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in much of anything. I'll be the first to tell you. I just enjoy technology, and always adjusting to try and maybe do something a little bit better. So just a quick little side thing. Rudy's Retro Intel, he asks, off question here, anyone use something of the Thunderbird for their mail client? And I can say I have used it. I'm back on Kmail right now because they fixed whatever was wrong with it, mostly. And it's really nice. They've done a lot in the last few years. It's really improved a lot. So yeah, I would say it's pretty good. I guess eventually K9 Mail will become Thunderbird at some point in time. Maybe it has already.
It did.
That still says K9 on my computer, on my phone. So I don't know.
I thought, well, for some reason, I have Thunderbird for Android on my phone.
Yeah, so as of this morning, it still said K9 Mail. So I don't know. I guess
Have
we'll
you
see.
have you done an update on your phone yet?
It's automatic. I haven't done automatically because I'm lazy. I shouldn't.
That's okay.
I
think it's
so
because
I
I'm
use
on the beta
ProTime Mail,
channel.
so this whole Thunderbird thing is like beyond me.
Yeah, and so Mike Chilson says, I use Thunderbird every day, desktop and mobile. So he is the man to talk to. Mike, help out Rudy. Tell him how great it is. But all right, so it is an open mic night. We are, which I guess we've been open micing it now since then. But I do have like an interesting topic. I was on I saw this really interesting video on I think it might have been Twix or something. But it said it talked about, it was kind of a discussion of supply chain. And so I think about supply chain a lot when it comes to computers and technology and everything else. Where do all my parts come from? Making sure that, for me, from an ethical perspective, I want to make sure the supply chain is as clean as possible. And so that's where I try and look at things. And I don't like e-waste. There's a lot of things. But anyway, that aside, it was talking about the technology involved and the people involved in making pencils. So the standard number 2 or whatever pencil that you buy in the store. And what do these things cost? Like 10, 25, 50 cents, something like that. I don't even know what they cost. I have so many pencils. I can't say I've even purchased one in a long time. But so it says there are more than 14 billion pencils that are produced in a year around the world. So that could circle the earth 62 times just from end to end pencils, which is amazing in and of itself. That's a lot of pencils. And so the conversation that was happening was by this like professor feller, but he says so in making of a pencil, you have to source the wood, right? And from somewhere. They're typically cedar trees, I guess. Maybe other kinds of wood too. There are other materials they use as well. So you have to cultivate those trees, and someone's got to plant those trees after the fact, and then once those trees are are cut, you have to when you think about like all the tools involved in cutting the tree, and then how those materials are sourced to cut those trees, and the materials to make those tools that were used, and the manufacture of those tools, and the number of people involved in that process, and then so it's just just for the wood. And then for the lead, which is actually not really lead, it's graphite and clay that's compressed into the pencil lead. And then they have to assemble the wood around the pencil lead. So they usually cut into slats, and then the where the lead is, it's milled out, and they have to put the rods in there, and then they put it together and they glue it. They glue that together, and then they have to turn this into the shape that it is. Sometimes it's round or it's got little steps in it, like an octagon or whatever it is, and then it's painted as well, and so then someone's got to source the paint that paints the pencils that has been manufactured, and then there's the manufacture of the paint as well, and then also some fun designs. So there's a graphical designer that makes the designs that they put on the pencil, and then there's the rubber for the eraser, which is held on by a ferrule, and rubber comes from rubber trees, at least it has at one time. And so those trees, I think, were imported from South America, then grown here or wherever, and they have to turn and process components from those trees to make the rubber. And then there's other materials that go into making of the rubber, and people involved in that process. and then the metal ferrule that joins it all together, which obviously there's mining operations that go on to get the metal. So I think this is probably aluminum, and then that's got to be refined somewhere, and there's machines that make those refining machines, make the refineries to be able to refine this, and then it's got to be shaped, stamped. Probably is what this is done. Probably a big roll, and then this is crimped on here, and then you have the to be able to purchase the pencil, you have all the logistics, the packaging, and then the retail end of it. So when you think about so this 25-cent or whatever pencil had how many thousands of people involved in the manufacture of this, and then I'm dividing up my 25 cents amongst how many thousands of people. That's just for a pencil, which is kind of a simple item. So it makes me think everything that's involved in making the next framework laptop or the next whatever, it's just how many people are involved in that and how many different skills and trades and everything else. Like I hadn't really thought about this really in depth until recently. And I was just like actually in awe that all this even works, that we get to the point where we can have pencils, let alone computers and whatnot. And am I going off on a crazy tangent train here?
I like globalism
Well,
too.
yes,
Yes.
Sure, but whatever.
but the economy of the pencil is already discovered.
Right.
We know how to make it. It's a set design for the most part. It's like a set function.
Some are flexible though. Have you seen those flexible ones? Those are neat. I don't know what those are made out of.
Okay, but
The bendy pencils are very
Yes.
wild.
They're crazy.
I
They're hard to
mean-
write with.
the functionality has been baked into the pencil for a long time. Okay, we
Right.
know what to expect from a pencil. Do we know what to expect from AI? Question mark. I don't think so. It's a
I've
completely different
lost
like
what we're talking about.
That was
Pencils.
an excellent pivot, Sean.
sorry. Taking over the stream. But it's like we know what technology goes into something that we already know. We don't know what technology goes into something that we're just discovering. And that's the difference between a pencil and AI. Is like we don't know what goes into AI yet. We haven't discovered
We've always
that.
known what goes into AI though, because we made it.
No, we
the
haven't.
difference between what we know and what we're being told is important. The people who make the AI stuff, the machine learning algorithms, the LLMs, they know what the ingredients
That's the
are.
important point. It's not AI, it's machine learning.
Artificial intelligence is a very, very wide category. There are subcategories of it, and pretty much every facet of artificial intelligence, research, development, production, the people that are actually making those, they know all the stuff that's going into it. The question is, are they going to tell you? And the answer is usually no. They're not gonna, because it would be very dangerous if they did. For themselves, not for you.
And that's a very good point. And the point that I'm making is that by calling something artificial intelligence implies some sort of actual like sentience behind that, and we don't have that.
Which
we
That
have
could
agree.
be a whole philosophical debate about what is sentience.
we have machine learning. We don't have something that can actually think.
In my mind, AI, artificial intelligence, is more of a marketing term used by LLM vendors to create a business model so that corporations can make use of their tool sets in whatever way they want to make use of it. Really,
Sure.
generate a
sure.
lot of noise.
Microsoft Next AI. Would you buy it? I wouldn't.
I don't know that I'm necessarily concerned about AI just in general, just because I'm just not. I don't know. To me, it is concerning, but I'm just not concerned. It's a tool that I think is useful, and I use it probably not as frequently as I was using it, because I just haven't used it recently as much. But when I have a problem, when I have like large or like a document that I want it to parse through and help me out, like a manual or something, to a synthesizer, it's great for that because it can find those answers for me more efficiently than I can reading it, because I can only read so fast. But I guess I have no more concern about AI than I do the algorithms that are used for search engines or what's offered to me like on the YouTube or whatever else. So I kind of put them in the same category of like what I'm concerned about. I mean, everything can be manipulated, and I think we're always being manipulated to some degree. But I don't know. Books are cool too. More or less my
And
point.
then we have to worry about where the wood came from for the paper and the ink and
More or less, I think the point that I was getting to was that when I was listening to this like professor from, it was a pretty grainy video from the 1970s. I guess it was a commercial too, but I don't know about that. There was it's like how much knowledge was developed for all these different steps and how many people were involved. And more or less my point was, I love technology. I live in it day in, day out. It's my passion. It's where I hobby. It's where I work. But sometimes I lose sight of the fact that there are people involved in making this possible, and how grateful that I am for the different people involved over the years. And because we're building upon new things upon the old, and there's all these iterative changes that are made because somebody took the time to figure something out and then perfect the process and so forth. And I guess it's really quick. You can lose sight of just the importance of the people involved in that process. And for me, it was like, I just want to say, to those, and whether it's Linux, open source, a pencil, the food that I buy at the store, there's a lot of people involved. And I think sometimes we're maybe not as grateful as we should be for all those that contribute to the world and to the plenty that we do have, and all these wonderful things that I think it's really quick to lose sight of that. And that was really the point of the whole thing. Cause I always say, be sure to tip your developers and in the Linux world, if you can. But anyway, yeah. So it's just something I think about, and I just thought it was just interesting because it related to technology. That was all. That was really the point of it.
I like globalization too, Nate.
Yeah, because everything is sourced globally at this point. So
I like cookies.
I do too, especially Christmas cookies. Well, chocolate chip cookies anyway.
I didn't mean to
Oatmeal
hijack
raisin.
anything.
Whoa.
At the end of the day, we are all specialists in our own way. So
yeah, that's for sure.
we bring something unique to the table.
Although I do have to pump the brakes here. Neil said he likes oatmeal raisin cookies. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. They're the best.
No.
Yeah, they're yummy.
But that's
Yeah.
beyond disgusting.
I
Raisins and cookies?
listen.
Yeah.
Listen. If you go
All right.
and you reach for a cookie,
I will. What
And
about peanut butter cookies?
that's fine. The issue I have is oatmeal raisin masquerades looking like a chocolate chip cookie. And when you bite that because you're not paying attention, you think it's a chocolate chip cookie and it's an oatmeal raisin cookie. That's like,
Okay, yeah, nobody wants that.
Don't use golden raisins. Don't use the black ones.
okay, that's fair.
Okay. So
Oh.
I avoid sweets simply because of family history. So I won't
Sure.
be partaking in any cookies. I might have a banana or an apple or some other fruit along the way, but cookies, not so much.
Oh, well. I mean, I'm all up for sliced apples as well. That's good too.
I'm good with ants on a log, celery, peanut butter, raisins. I'm good with that. But not
I don't
raisins.
know if I'm much for celery.
Oh, I love celery.
No. But I will do it with carrots.
Okay, there's a great question. Hobbs, I don't know if he's got a friend Kelvin or not, says which OS is most like oatmeal raisin cookies? Mac OS.
Yeah, definitely Mac OS.
You think you're grabbing
Yeah.
something good, and you're really disappointed when you use it.
Yep.
See, the problem is I like oatmeal raisin cookies, so I don't know if I could feel disappointed with them.
I would say Arch because you're never quite sure what it's going to be.
Yeah, you're right. I've had oatmeal cookies that taste like dirt, and I've had ones that taste awesome.
Yeah, okay. I've had that too.
Okay, so Rudy's Retro Intel says apple slices and vodka. I'll do the apple slices minus the vodka.
I'll do the
Yeah, I'm
vodka
going to minus the
for
vodka. I will, however, add peanut butter.
It depends on the vodka.
potato vodka. Come on, guys.
No. Alcohol and apples. Look, if you're going to do alcohol and apples, just get a cider instead.
I've had some
this is Linux
amazing
Saloon.
vodka made from grapes. Not grape flavored, just like made from grapes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be Grey Goose.
I just don't like booze, just in general.
Okay.
I'm not one for booze
that's
very
you.
much.
Yeah, I'll take if I had to choose between like a bowl of chocolate Moose Tracks ice cream or beer, I'll take the ice cream 10 times out of 10. I'm still a child, especially if I can have like a sugar cone, maybe like an ice cream on a sugar cone. I mean, that's more my treat. I mean, Eric earlier was eating some kind of a drumstick thing. I was seeing it was definitely eating ice cream. I was very envious. And so I will say for me, okay, Steve's very own now. He's just being gross. Says, sure, it's Soylent Green. Yeah.
Ew, no.
Well,
That is the definition of a bait and switch when it comes to flavor base.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. First of all, the flavor varies from person to person on Soylent Green. And secondly, Nate can choose to, what his poison is for whatever he likes, and that's cool.
I mean, I'm also not one for alcoholic stuff all that much. Mostly because I really just don't like it when it tastes alcoholic. Like that particular flavor profile is not one that I like very much. So if it's something, so like ciders for the most part are basically the main alcoholic drink I really go for because they don't taste like alcohol if they're done well. They taste more like a sharp fruit drink, which I like a lot more.
I don't like the deleterious effects.
You don't like what?
The deleterious effects of
He doesn't
booze.
like the hangover.
Oh,
bad
yeah,
effects.
sure.
No, I don't.
Ben, nobody likes the hangover. If you like the hangover, then that's you got a whole new set of problems.
No, and any of the effects it has on the brain, I don't like any of it. Like I don't like the detaching from reality it causes. The relaxing sensation. I don't know how to describe it. I don't like being drunk.
I don't like being drunk either, so I don't get drunk.
Yeah, I mean, like any of it, just even the lightheadedness, any part of it, doesn't feel good to me. It feels terrible. So,
I don't know if I ever drink enough cider to get that effect. Like as it is, I'm not a heavy drinker of things, except for water. I drink lots of water, but like pretty much anything else, I tend to not drink a lot of. So I think I'm one of those fortunate few who basically has never experienced a hangover. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I prefer water. Water and coffee. Those are my top two.
Water
Never
and juice
had a
mainly
cup.
for me.
A really good tea from like loose leaf tea that you brew just at the right time, or right time, right temperature. To me, that's spot on.
I can see that.
Nate, do you
Yeah.
grind your own?
Beans?
Yep.
I have in the past. Lately,
because I was going to say, if you have a Costco nearby,
don't.
Balzac's, that's our go-to.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh yeah, you have nothing nearby.
That's true. I live in a rural area, mostly rural.
Yep.
I have to drive a distance. Well, I got an Aldi nearby, so that works. Cheap stuff.
Yeah, but you ain't finding premium beans at an Aldi.
Sometimes.
Come on
What,
now.
really?
By definition, you can't.
I like Aldi's beans in particular. They have like a breakfast blend that's
Yeah.
very. It's passable. It's a very passable coffee.
It's Trader
Yes,
Joe.
that is how I would describe it too.
They bring some of the Trader
It
Joe's
is.
stuff in as well, because it's Trader Joe's
Yeah.
and Aldi are the same company.
No, they don't.
Oh,
I'm
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
sure
Trader
Amazon
Joe's and
delivers
Aldi's are two
anywhere.
different Aldi's companies.
yeah, but they have a select brand that they basically take the Trader Joe stuff and they put the select brand on it and bring it to Aldi. That's what they do.
So Trader Joe's is owned by Aldi North, and Aldi's in the U.S. is owned by Aldi South.
They're
They
merged
don't
now.
No, they're not.
Are you sure?
The two
Yeah, the
brothers
two
do
brothers
not like
hate
each other.
other.
Yeah, they don't like each other. That's the whole reason the company split in two.
I thought they merged recently. I could have sworn I read that someplace.
If they finally got over their differences after almost 3 decades, I'd be shocked.
And this is why I don't buy coffee at the grocery store. Because it all kind of
But,
sucks. Just on a different level. Just
I
like,
used to live near an Aldi's, so I have actually had Aldi's coffee before. It is
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. 'Cause I just
It's what
So-
it's what you expect out of coffee. I just want a consistent flavor out of my coffee. I'm not a coffee snob by any stretch of the imagination, and I really once I find one that I like, especially one that's affordable, like a good price, I'm
Yeah.
sold.
I mean, that's
Sure.
how I am for a lot of things. I'm a creature of habit when it comes to grocery shopping. If I
Would it be
find something I like,
considered-
I'm probably going to go after it regularly.
Would it be considered sacrilege to put 35% cream on your coffee?
I'm okay with that. I
So-
put a fair
Depends
bit
on
of
if you're
cream.
doing-
God, I love doing that.
I
put
put
a
a
lot
fair
in
bit of
because-
cream. I put a fair bit of cream in mine because I don't like the bitter taste,
Yeah.
and bitter and I are not friends. So stuff
Mm-hmm.
that's bitter, I react very badly to. So either I'll usually mix it in with some sweetened vanilla, or I will use cream, or even like mix it with hot chocolate, something like that.
Very nice.
So, to bring the Aldi thing up one more time, this is a Commodore 64. It's actually an Aldi Commodore 64. So,
What?
yes. So, in the early 90s, Aldi had a contract with Commodore. They had like a run of Commodore 64 Gs, which is basically it's a cost reduced. It's like as cost reduced as you can make a Commodore 64. And this is
So
this
that
is
means that the keys are made of like finger plastic, right?
No,
And
no.
stuff.
So no, they didn't compromise on quality necessarily, but they have the lesser desired Petsky keys on the top printed instead of on the side, and then they have the less expensive internal board, and then this style of bread bin case was cheaper than the slab, the 64C slab, and so they basically combined all the least expensive ways of creating a Commodore 64 and sold these in Aldi, probably in the aisle of shame, I'm guessing.
Okay, I'm morbidly curious. How much did they cost?
I don't remember. I got it I got that at a retro show a
You
couple
got
years ago.
up and talked about this, and you couldn't, and you talked about how they made it cheap, and you can't even tell us how much it sold for. I
There were
feel
multiple
disappointed.
levels of Commodore 64s that were marketed over the years, and each iteration got to a cheaper form factor while retaining kind of like the Commodore 64 form factor and quality for the most part. So it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it kept getting progressively cheaper. I don't know. I tried to find a price here like very quickly, and I've been unsuccessful so far. So, but it was, yeah.
All I know is like I begged my father for a Commodore 64 when I was a teenager, and he finally caved in and got me a Commodore VIC-20.
Ouch.
And
Not exactly the same thing.
Not
No.
even close.
But when I graduated from high school, I was like, everybody was like, "You want a car?" No, I want a Commodore 64. Damn it! And they finally got me a Commodore 64, and I'm pretty sure that was one of the earlier ones. And the power supply died on that within a year.
Well, I have a few that I keep going just because they're fun. But it is that time to talk about next week. In fact, we're probably a little bit over. So next week we're going to do a distro exploration. And so I wasn't sure if anybody had any suggestions or thoughts as to what we can explore for next week.
Well, I know Ben had floated BSD for an exploration, which is, certainly interesting.
We did Ghost BSD not too long ago.
Nix is ready for the next release of the 2411, but it hasn't been released yet, so I can't recommend that.
Okay.
Simply because it has not been released.
Should we try and do for some fun, maybe find like a beta or alpha release of something out there? Or would that be a bad idea?
Absolutely.
We could certainly go down like the distro watch rabbit hole and like what's at the top, or like do a random spin and see what comes up.
Or alternatively, go to pretty much at the bottom for something that's active.
The bottom is more interesting than the top because the top's been MX Linux for like almost, I don't know, the entire time I've existed. So someone's been gaming that system forever. The bottom of the list might be interesting if anyone wants to go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, I think MX Linux is actually very interesting distro, based on their choices. But that's at the top is kind of like questionable.
All right, so at the bottom 100, I know there's more than that, but for the list, so to make my life a little easier, so I can just scroll down a little bit. So number 100 is AV Linux. I know nothing about this. There's
Will it run? Is the question.
Makulu Linux. And there's also BunsenLabs at number 98.
Yes.
Oh, BunsenLabs is awesome.
Yes.
I love BunsenLabs.
Wow.
Okay,
I've
but
heard that
Bunsen
a lot.
Labs is all like a window manager system,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it uses Flux
Okay.
OpenBox.
So let's
It's really good. I used it a lot.
let's make this a fun little thing here. If you have something old and crusty, an old potato, install Bunsen Labs on that and see if it's usable for something, like actually make it like if it was like a tech apocalypse and all you had was your worst thing that you got in your house, could you run
Oh my
Bunsen Labs on
goodness.
that and
Oh my
enjoy?
goodness.
Is that a bad idea, Swift? Is that a
No. That
No,
is
no.
absolutely not. I'm saying because I've done it on a certain machine, and I had Bunsen Labs going for quite some time. Yeah, so that's yeah.
All right, so it's gonna be Bunsen Labs. Pick your potato and see how it goes.
I love Bunsen Labs.
Yes, Anna Rita, Bunsen Labs is a distribution, and so we're gonna do. I guess we'll do that next week.
So, so if we're calling it a potato, if you're running it in a virtual machine, does it have to like be like 512 megs?
No, it's just whatever you got. Whatever you got.
Yeah, but if you don't have something that qualifies as a potato, and you
Well, I
have
think a
to
potato
like,
today is probably more like 2 gigs or less.
Oh,
No. Let's make it real potato. If you're doing a virtual machine, the lowest possible specs that it will let you set.
Okay.
Oh,
okay, fair enough.
oh, he up there,
Fair
Andy
enough.
big time.
All right, so what we're doing is we're going to give Bunsen Labs a shake, but the most unfair shake possible.
Absolutely.
And
That's
I
what
am
makes it
so
fun.
happy to be part of that conversation.
All right, so Bunsen Labs Linux it is for next week. Let's have a ball. I've used Bunsen Labs before, and I know my son recently played with it, and he thought it was pretty cool. He's getting big in the tech. I want to see if he'll actually join Linux Saloon, but he wants nothing to do with it. So I don't know. Maybe he doesn't like his dad. Anyway, it might be a fun conversation then. So Bunsen Labs Linux on the if you do a virtual
Absolute
machine,
minimum.
just whatever you have lying around that you can put it on. That would be a fun exploration, I
I
guess.
got the perfect thing. The
I
perfect.
doubt it will run on my dog, but I can try.
So if you have a toaster and it'll run on that toaster, let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
If you can. It's got a USB slot.
As long as the toaster has significant support for the drivers, it'd work.
You'll get it. You'll.
So this will be fun. All right. So let's see. That's so. So actually, keep watching the Linux Saloon calendar. I got to update that yet. I'll have a link for that in the show notes at the very end of it. But I'll have that updated. So I'll probably take a bit of a break at the end of the year, maybe into like a 2-week break or whatever, around Christmas time. So we'll see how that goes. Not exclusively, but like sometime around. So I got to figure that out yet, so I can have a little bit of vacation time and whatnot. And but if you have any suggestions for whether it's distribution suggestions, appetizer suggestions, or poll ideas, feel free to share them. It'd be great. Suggestions at linuxsaloon.com or in any of the forums that we're in as well. It'd be cool. So I guess it's time for last call. Did anybody have anything they want to talk about, like they got going on in their world, something that they're a project or anything in particular? Neil is probably like building the next something awesome. Maybe. No, that's all right.
Me building something? How dare you?
Refining something.
I don't know. Maybe
Or a
it's
podcast?
time for me to actually have a vacation.
It's good. It's good to clear the head. And then I know Eric. I know you do podcasts as well. I don't know if you have anything else going on here. If there's been any fun updates you can provide.
No, it's a bit of a downer actually. I was in the hospital the last couple weeks, so
Oh my goodness.
haven't done anything. I've been the opposite of tech.
Okay. Well, I already been hooked up to tech. Did you install Linux in any of the medical equipment in your room? Because that'd have been pretty cool.
I didn't. I thought about putting Doom on the Vitals machine, but yeah, the screen might have been just about right. No, actually, funny enough, I just had my Android tablet, a Samsung Galaxy Tab, with me, and my cell phone, and so that was it. I sort of had Android technology, and that's what I did for a couple weeks. So mostly consuming media. That was pretty much it. I could have done Dex because this Samsung does Dex pretty well. Unfortunately, one of the reasons I was there was my arm wasn't working. So, so it really kind of left me without the physical capability of doing anything from a compute standpoint. But it is nice to know, like, that I have these sort of layers of technology, right? So I could have as sort of simple and straightforward as the, Samsung Galaxy Tab S8. And then, with Dex, I can then now have sort of a flavor of a computer. And then, I have that Dell Latitude, which is a tablet PC, which I could run Linux on, which would have been sort of the next step up if I was trying to do any sort of computer work. And then, an actual laptop on top of that, the XPS, which I really, now that I have that Latitude, I haven't taken the XPS anywhere since I've had that Latitude. Just because the Latitude is so absolutely like convenient and lightweight and kind of perfect in terms of the capabilities, the screen size, the processor, the memory, sort of everything is a real computer. And so, in that form factor, it's kind of amazing. So, yeah, super happy with that. But yeah, so I was on the sort of lower tech end where I really could only consume media. And so that's really what I was doing, was just using the
What'd you watch?
Galaxy, which I'm actually using right now. I watched a lot of movies. So just from like sort of older films, spaghetti westerns, like just like a bunch of stuff, Quentin Tarantino movies. So I hadn't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood before. I hadn't watched Jackie Brown in probably 20 years. And so I kind of went back and watched some of those. And yeah, I just kind of got into that. And then I also I always do this thing where I watch golf when I'm in the hospital. I have absolutely no idea why, other than it's one of the few commercial, well, fall asleep, but then also from a commercial standpoint, it's one of the few types of broadcasts where they don't interrupt it with a lot of commercials. And so it's like you can watch long stretches of like quiet golf, like sort of background, almost like background music in a way, and without all the blaring commercials. So, but yeah, so that was my last couple of weeks.
Well, I'm glad you're out of the hospital. Didn't know you were in there, so
yeah,
it's a good deal.
Thank you.
Rudy's Retro Intel says he's building a real-time monitor board for his Macintosh SE30, which we know is only about 5 years old, based on my math. And I think he probably has a video of that. He's probably generating some kind of content around that, so that'll be pretty cool. And he's installing Mint on his very first Surface tablet computer as well. That's pretty cool. And then I know like Low Tech Linux. I see you do stuff on YouTube, right? Is that something you do? Or maybe I'm missing it. Oh, you're muted. That's a me move.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube.
Good deal. And then you have games that you do. You do like stream some games, or you just
Some of my early YouTube videos, I did some Godot
Okay.
Tutorials, but I haven't done that in quite a while.
Okay.
I'm mostly
cool.
about Linux and InkStitch for a plugin for Inkscape that turns Inkscape into where you can create embroidery files for embroidery machines on Linux.
That's cool. We got to talk sometime.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool.
I've heard about that. It's
In
really
fact-
awesome.
In fact, would you be willing to do like a community free pour in the future, just kind of about that? Would that be something you'd be willing to
Sure.
like do a presentation on? Because I would love to have you talk about that. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it too. I'd
Yeah.
like to hear it too.
You might have to hold my hand on that, but I'd be happy to do it.
I'll gladly hold your digital hand because I can't.
Yeah,
I can't get
outstanding.
with but anyway, well, fantastic.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
So Steve's very own, he's in the chat. He does a lot of live streaming right now. Sometimes he plays games on there, but mostly every Sunday he does a live stream. And he's got a really great OBS setup where you can punch and fart and all these awful things. And so I like it. It's a lot of fun to like interrupt him. So I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud. Matt Wind and we talked about some Linuxy things this past week. So you can check that out. It's mostly conversational type of podcast. and how we're using Linux. I have a website called cubiclenate.com. Sometimes I do things, so you can check that out. Anybody else have anything else you want to say before we roll away? Adam, usually have nuggets of wisdom or sarcasm. I don't know if you had anything you want to fire off. Something's neat.
Half-Life 2 20th anniversary. Been going through that. That's been fun.
5th anniversary, awesome.
20th.
I know, but I can't do math, so
Yeah,
we're back to that.
20 years.
That's a long
Still
time.
I think it still hangs with the modern games, to be honest.
You know, if the
Half-Life 2 is
mechanics are good, mechanics are good. That's what it comes down
Yeah.
to.
The physics really carries it.
Yeah. All right, well, the next Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network, so check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of the conversation, both the Zoom meeting here and the YouTube stream, YouTube stream, so as well as everyone for watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back in a personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yous.